This time on Captain Cash's Laboratory, we're going to be working on Humpty Dumpty. This is the Christmas Wonderland toy store, or what's left of it, from Lemax, it looks like. I'm kind of afraid to turn it over at this moment. So anyway, this is how I just pulled it out of its box, and apparently did not survive the shipping trip. So it looks like there's going to be a whole bunch of gluing to put this thing back together again, once we figure out why it was sent here. What does the bottom say? Yeah, it's Lemax. So I'm assuming, outside of the broken pieces, it didn't work due to a motor issue. That's usually what it is. I don't know, but I can't fire it up yet because I got to pull more of the broken stuff out of the track. Wow. This occasionally happens. That's the problem with shipping. Even the plastic container that this was in within the box is shattered too. So, I mean, it took a beating. Trying to hold the pieces because there's wires and I don't want to tear all the wires. See if they'll just stay there for a moment. That's what I was trying. Oh, hey, look at this. I can unplug it. Okay, let's try and get all the pieces out of this thing and then fire it up. We still got some loose pieces rattling in the back. I think that's it. Going to plug it in. So it's a standard 4.5 volt Lemax piece. You need to make sure. Okay, the wheel works. Okay, so the bottom's working, but the top's not. So this track is non-functional, and that track is functional. Sound works, which is good. This thing is completely separated. All right. I'm going to start this process. Well, since most of the house is separated from the base, I would normally start there. That's probably where I'm going to start, because I don't know if it's two motors or if there's a drive shaft. Might be two motors. It's really hard to see. I think with all the broken stuff you'd see it easier. So this is one of the ones where the bottom is porcelain and the top is plastic, and you can separate them by breaking the glue, which most of it's already broken from shipping. So thank you, UPS. Yeah, there's a secondary motor. There's no drive shaft that goes through the top. So there's 2 screws here, and if this is typical for Lemax, there's a 3rd screw underneath this tree. That side's already broke free. Oh, there's 4 screws. So that's just glued on with alignment pins. They have several pieces that are similar to that, where they have a tree covering the pieces. So we have 4 screws. Let's pop out the 4 screws. That one's stripped out, probably from install. We're going to try a different screwdriver. Nope. We'll try a bigger screwdriver. There we go. And we're going to have to replace this screw. Yeah, I don't know how they do it on install, but they wallow these things out. There's our motor. That's not turning any of the gears. I mean, I guess it made it easier by breaking the top off, but normally you would just pry around the edges. You can see the glue and the glue, and there's glue under this too, and pop it off in one piece, then unplug it, and you're good to go. Not even the belt's trying to move. All right. They put a screw under the gearbox. Put one from the bottom up. So they put a screw from the bottom up. What a pain in the butt they're making this. This marquee is screwed down to this piece here. The screws are here, 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 and I'm sure there's, yeah, one here and one here. Why would they screw it down like this? not supposed to fix it. Keep forgetting that. I just need to get a couple of these wires underneath the hook here, so that way I can try and lift this. These 4 it's just a wire holder. There we go, now it's out. Okay, that is the stupidest setup ever. 1 from the top, 3 from the top, and 1 from the bottom. Jeez. I'll put the gears back together before they fall out and make a mess. You really can't screw up which of these is the flats and which is the taper, because this one has a actual recessed hole for the tapered screw. So it goes back in like so. And now we can get to the motor. I'll double check it with no load. Yeah, motor's bad. As I rotated it, you saw the lights flash. That would be a shorted or dying motor. So let's get rid of this. That's usually what happens when one of the motor fails. The fact that this one was still working, the bottom, is amazing. Pull the pulley off, put the motor in the bad motor pile. Now, it's up to you if you want to put that bottom screw back in, if you take this apart, because you know it's going to fail again. They always do. So, that clicking sound was the wires. So now that they're pulled up,
Special sale on all cabinet sets.
So, you gotta check that bottom track. Need to replace the motor. It's going to be just like the top. We're going to have to remove the center to get to the screws. Got 2 screws in the back, which means the other screws are underneath the window dressing here. So, there's the window. Now we need to remove the display. Just out of curiosity, they only put 2 screws in this one. Nope. So, oh no, I can see the other screw through the resin. They used a lot of resin on this, and I do mean a lot. Trying to chip off the excess resin. And we're going to have to probably heat it up. I'm going to work on this side because this side has less of this resin buildup around it. And I can probably get a screwdriver under there once I get it warmed up a little. Careful, this is resin, this is plastic. The resin won't melt as soon as the plastic will. No, I didn't almost cut myself. It was the back of the cutter. What I'm trying to do is make enough room to try and get a screwdriver in here to start prying on it so I can get heat in underneath where the glue is. stuff stinks when it gets hot. Starting to move. Look at that resin glob. And there's a screw right there, and there's a screw right there, both underneath that glob of resin. I'm going to adjust these. I didn't realize there were stripes on the... Still a little bit, but not as bad. It's way brighter in here now. There we go. Now, we need to heat up this resin glob so we get to the screws. Now, if you have an adjustable temperature gun, you're going to want to be on high, or if it's one that has a thermometer on it, I have mine set for 400 degrees Celsius to heat through this resin. As you can see, once it gets hot enough, you can start to chisel it away, and it starts coming away in pieces. But you don't want to overheat this plastic because it'll warp. When you put it back together, just use hot glue. Whoop. Because once you get it warm, it'll usually it comes off in sheets like this. Sometimes it comes off in pieces. There we go. Resin removed. Next step, we need to try and get out these screws. There's one. They're going to have to be replaced because the resin is stuck inside. I'm using a blade or a flathead screwdriver to grab because a Phillips will not. I'm going to have to get this hot again. So this one's got so much resin in it I can't get a bite at all to get it to turn. let's see. There we go. Got enough of it out to where I can unscrew it. Well, there's some debris down in here that might be getting caught inside the motor, plus some of the stuff I just chiseled off. So that you, there you go. Teeth look good. Handles resistance okay. Those teeth look okay. So it looks like we just need to remove some of this debris that's inside here. Probably just go get a vacuum, a little handheld one, and suck it all out. Get rid of some of this trash. So it looks like it needs a motor, a cleaning, and a reassembly. And a lot of glue. Like a lot. So when this goes back together, we'll use hot glue because you do have to remove this base. You can see how much resin type glue they use to adhere it. You can see the yellowing. And then on the bottom here, which is going to be really hard to show, there are screws. Those screws hold on these walls. I mean, this is why I like plastic, and a lot of folks don't, is because they are fully disassemblable, which means that you can, if you buy a parts piece, for instance, like this one, parts piece, and you break it, you can unscrew the parts and screw them back on, and voila, it's fixed again. Or, I don't like the color of these bricks. You can disassemble it and paint them separate. Something like that. It doesn't require as much work as like a porcelain house or a full resin house. But it's personal preference. I prefer the plastic ones because they're usually easier to work on and they're easier to modify. But again, personal preference. So I'm going to pause this for a moment. I'm going to go get a vacuum and I'm going to suck out the debris. And then I'm going to put this back on and put this wheel back in and see how it works. Okay, I could just... test it real quick this way. So this disc here is what holds it down and keeps it from moving. I have to hold this up because of the wire. No, it's not engaging right. Alright, let me clean it up first. I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, vacuumed it out, and I put the disc back on with all 4 screws to replace 2 of them. And it works like it's supposed to. It's not clicking or clacking. I gotta hold this up, of course, again because of the wire. Turn the volume down. See, they're going. So it's just the debris stuck inside the teeth. I also took the figures and bent them straight up because these 3 are broke. Their legs are broke. They're barely holding on. So I'll have to hit them with glue when we're done here. So you can see the damage right there in the back, this paper, from it getting so smashed up in shipping. I usually don't have too much of a problem with UPS. So now gotta lift the wires through. So there we go. And that way they don't get caught on the bottom, because we're going to put a motor in the top and we're going to test it. I'm not going to glue any of the pieces back in until we test this new motor, which is right here. Since I had to go get the vac and stuff, I went and got another motor and put the pulley on it already. I have to solder the wires on. This is a different style. So the one that Lemax uses, the motor, the wires coming out of the casing. This one, you see the red dot for the red wire? They actually get soldered to those two tabs. They're sticking out. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to, well, I turned on my soldering iron while it heats up. I'm going to go ahead and strip some of this insulation back. Like so. There we go, soldering iron's at temperature. Yep. First things we're going to do is we're going to tin everything. So I'm going to tin the motor. Now we're going to tin the wires. Just knocking off the excess solder. And now we're going to solder the wires. There's that one. Need you to stay up. There you go. Now, this motor can spin in both directions, so if it is backwards, of course that was a really crappy solder joint, I can reverse it, but red is the primary. Forgot this negative wire does not want to. There we go on. And it didn't stay. Now I stripped the wires a little farther than I needed, so I'm going to cut off the extra so that way they don't touch the casing of the motor, which can be bad. this sits in here like this. I need the wires like that. Here we go. Just had to get one of them there screw holes to line up, since there's so many of them. And I had to make sure the one oddball screw hole wasn't one of them. There's always an oddball screw hole, which they use for casting or something. Well, it's turning, unlike the other motor, but it's only turning the belt. So the belt's shot. The belt is stretched. So, just so you can see that it's turning, see the red dot? Now we need belt. Hoping I have one. I really need to take inventory. I've been running out of stuff because I keep using it all. These are all cog belts, specialty belts. Stopped by a belt. So I buy belts in batches that usually last me a while, but apparently I haven't been paying any attention to how many I've been going through. Just hoping I had another bag up here with some belts in it. It's funny how the motor was spinning and the belt was spinning around the big pulley. Big pulley wasn't turning. The big pulley does rotate, and it rotates all the gears. So fat belts. Those are fat belts. This belt's technically too small, but let me see if it'll work, at least for testing, until I get a new belt. Also helps if I get it on the pulley. There you go. So this belt's too small, which means it's got too much resistance. But I want to see if it will turn the disc. I'll try and keep it centered. So this one just needed a motor and a lot of work, but it was sent to me just for a motor. So these are so as you can see here, big difference in size. The problem with that is there's too much tension, which means the motor has to work harder, which means it's pulling more amperage, which means it burns out faster, as well as it can damage the circuitry. So for testing, not a big deal. For longevity, very bad. You can also see the thickness. This is why I prefer skull crane belts. Look at how much thicker it is compared to the OEM belts. That thicker belt fits better in the groove, where it doesn't sit as low, and you have more meat to last you in the belt, so it doesn't get so thin. It'll last you longer. Also, so far I haven't had any of these shred, and they're very elasticy. That's why I was able to stretch it to fit, because as you can tell, this belt is smaller than the actual pulley. They're very elasticy, and they're sticky. Not sticky in the sense that, ooh, it sticks to my finger, but sticky in the sense when the friction coefficient's higher than these factory belts. That's why I like skull crane belts. So far, they're the best ones I found. If I find something better in the future, I'll change. But at the moment, that's what I go with. So I'm going to search my top of my bench over here, where I used to keep my belts, and see if one of the packages that I bought in the past maybe fell under something. Because I can see I have a top up here, but no bag. So I'm wondering if the bag fell underneath. But this is, so you can see, Skull Crane animatronics and a Matronic rubber belt kit from Skull Crane. So this is what I normally buy. But anyway, I'm going to pause this for a second, and I'm going to see if I can find some belts. And we're going to start gluing Humpty Dumpty back together again and see if we can beat what the old nursery rhyme says we couldn't do. Okay, I found a belt. Actually found a whole bunch of them. So I'm going to throw that one away. So I've had this thing running for a minute or two. Actually probably 3. So there it is. It's a tan belt. It's still a rubber belt, a rubbery belt, so stretchy. It is the right size, and as you can see, it turns. So, might need that underscrew. I don't know. It has a little bit of flex. I'm going to see if tightening these down more than my screw gun will. I'm not going to break them, is the whole point. I don't want to break them. Yeah, it still has flex. Probably have to screw that bottom one in. So let's put the wheel on with the Raggedy Andy, as I keep saying. Make sure the wires are fed through their clip. Wires are back underneath the little hook there. Drop the disc on, like so. The holes are not equidistant, so you have to make sure you put it on in the correct position, which generally is the hole for the wires to the right. That's the one that's full of resin. There, it's fixed. Yeah, kind of fixed. It's one of the replacement screws. That's why it's a different, well, it's hard to see on the camera, but it looks different. It's a replacement. So I've had to throw 3 of the screws away. They were full of resin. Okay, now comes the, we gotta put it all together with glue part. I need one more screw from the bottom, since I used that screw in one of the other positions. So put a little screw bin here. It's a tapered screw, which is, there's one right here. So you can buy a kit of these screws, but what I normally do is, because I deal with so many of these houses that I buy as parts pieces or that show up shattered and they don't want them back. Shattered part isn't that much. I don't want to make it sound like I do tons of them. If this is number 3 in 7 years. But because I have so many parts houses, I keep all the hobby screws and I put them in a little storage container. Because so many of these have resin inside of them, especially when they're Lemax. And if you don't, you won't have your, you won't have it, be able to put it back together. I should be able to glue that in without disassembling it. So you're going to need a lot of hot glue and a lot of super glue for this thing. So first I'm going to do is I'm going to glue the window and window dressing. I did already start removing some of the resin, so I usually just use a pair of side cutters so I can grab underneath the edge and I try and either cut it or peel it off, because I'm not going to use the resin. So I'm trying to do it on camera, but That way we can just get the chunks off. That way you can glue smoother. This is relatively clean. Most of the resin came right off of that. This was relatively, the two sections came off pretty good. There's a small piece right here. There we go. The disc has already been cleaned. So, just need to wait for this to get hot. I'm going to need to put some more glue stick in. As you can see, it's a little short. But we're going to start with the bottom first and work our way up. I'm also going to glue the entire bottom with hot glue. And that's so we can take it back apart in the future, or the owner can take it back apart in the future, if need be. Meaning the bottom motor dies. They all die. Nothing lasts forever. The fun part's going to be right here, and I don't have a picture of this unit, so I might have to look it up. If not, I'll just try and figure it out by the puzzle pieces. You know, what fits where. There's fake snow stuck inside the seams. It's fake snow. You've got to be careful when you use fake snow around these pieces. There's been a lot of pieces I've worked on where the fake snow has got wrapped around the moving parts and it tends to break things or to bind it up to where it stops. So watch where you put your fake snow. This has a lot of moving parts, top and bottom, and these characters, top and bottom, will catch things and pull them in, and you'll either break the characters off, like the pile over here, or it'll just stop, and then the motor's trying to spin but it can't, or it starts spinning and it slips the belt, or it cracks a gear, or it burns the circuit board because the motor's overamping. So watch the fake snow. I mean, I didn't see any fake snow inside. I saw some hair and dust and resin, but this fake snow that's stuck right here in the seam, that's really close to the moving disc. So just be very wary of your fake snow. Real snow is not any better, so don't put this outside. Real snow will just destroy the circuitry. There we go. It's almost hot enough. I'm just going to put a little dab here on the wires that are coming out, just to make sure they don't drop or pull. The hole in the bottom to transfer them to the top. I'm surprised I didn't run them through a cavity in the sides, but it's probably because it's plastic. I didn't want to cast one. And now I'm just going to put a bead of hot glue. There we go. And I'm going to we're going to get it in there and centered so I can put the window in. Let's make sure the window can go in. Now I'm gonna have to lift it for the window. That's fine. I haven't glued the bottom on yet. I'm not going to glue the back of the window to the centerpiece. I'm only going to put a bead of glue on the bottom, just on the bottom, and that's so if this needs to come out, you don't have to separate 900 different things. You can just peel out the one. So just holding her down for a second to keep it in place. Now we're going to center up the base and make sure that we're good. All right, no binding, that's good. You want to make sure your glue is nice and hot for doing the bottom. And the reason being is the surface area you have to cover is so great, you don't want to get the first glue to harden before the last glue is done. And how I do it is I just do big globs in the corner that smush out. Because again, we want it to hold, but we also want to be able to take it back apart. And then just move it around to squish it out. There we go. And now I use SureBonder hot glue. If you've watched the videos, I mentioned it a whole bunch. Out of all the different hot glues I've tried, which there's plenty, SureBonder has worked the best for me. It works really fast. As you can see, I can lift the whole unit already once it starts to cool down. So I use SureBonder, which you can get in sticks, or I get it in a 77-foot roll, and I just cut the sections off. But I probably go through more hot glue than the average person, since most of these things are hot glued together. This stuff, though, I'm going to not hot glue. I'm going to actually glue with super glue, except for this disc, this half disc here. The other reason I like about hot glue when you do these big sections is if you have to take it back apart, you can get the hot glue out of the threads or the tops of the screws where you can't get the resin or super glue out. That's why I had to throw away a couple screws. So I know this one here just by the coloring. Characters separated, so we're just left with pieces of said house. Okay, I think I got it. Yep, so that goes there. And this goes here. Now do I have to glue these together first before I stick it in? There we go. Most definitely, because this recesses behind it. So now comes the slow part of putting her back together, because it's pieces. So while we're doing this, how's the weather? Here we're finally cooling down to where in the evenings and mornings, if you don't mind the skeeters, you can be outside or have your windows open. So this is going to take a while because this stuff isn't as fast as super glue. The Gorilla super glue takes a couple of minutes to bond. So I am going to literally put this puzzle back together and see if I'm better than the King's Men at putting this piece back into, you know, a fully functional, fully original looking piece. I'm hoping all this is the last of it that was in that broken plastic container that was inside the cardboard box. If not, I'm going to have to take all the insulation out, or certainly packing out of the box, and see what I can find as far as small pieces. So this was in a plastic container packed in paper, and the plastic container, the whole bottom of it's blown out. So it didn't retain its stuff. And it's in a big cardboard box. One of the other pieces in the cardboard box, which is right off screen, the edge of it's right here, totally intact. And I've already repaired it before. It's Santa's perch. I popped a motor in it, and the motor that I put in there after I test everything for 30 minutes, about 20 minutes in, the motor died. So I popped a new motor in, and now I have to just glue it back together. But my super glue is running low, so. But anyway, this one didn't survive. So yeah, I don't know if there's supposed to be flags on these poles back here or not, because I see this one and this one have a flag, and they're 180 out, which is not how wind works. And this is the other pole from here, but I don't know if it's supposed to have a flag. I don't think it does. I think it's just the front ones. But these flags are facing the wrong direction. One of them is backwards. Wind, unless it's going in a circle, can't make the flags do that. If it's in a circle, the flags may not be there anymore. Wow. See the nice paint job. Well, that one's setting. I guess I can glue this one. This one goes right here. And looks like that piece goes right there. So I'll wait for those two to set. And we got a piece of brick. Not sure where that goes. This should be the roof piece for right here. See, it's just like putting one of those 3D puzzles together. Just a lot more expensive. If you are good at paint, you can mix paint and touch this stuff up. I might try it. I'm not the greatest. I have done it a couple of times, but I know my limitations. I can usually put stuff back together, but it doesn't mean I can color match. Ugh. Super glue is like the worst thing to get on your fingers and your bench, because then you stick your hand in it. Yeah, it's come together pretty well. Now, the question is, will it survive its return trip to the other side of the country? This has a long way to go. should have glued this one in first. Glue my fingers together. There we go. It just popped out. Just popped it in. Popped out because it's sticking to my fingers. Alright, gonna have to wait for this to cure, and then I might have to just do a little bit of sanding on the edge to make it fit, because I think it's at a slight angle from gluing the sides, but now my fingers are covered in this stuff. How does this fit together? There we go. Okay, so that'll be able to slide together. This is a huge amount of glue again. One of the advantages of the plastic. I brought this up a week ago, matter of fact, from the day I'm filming this, exactly a week ago, why I prefer the plastic houses, because even when you break them, you can put it back together. Most of the time. There's always exemptions or exceptions. So this one I'm going to definitely have to hold. It keeps trying to separate right here at this tower. So I'm putting a little pressure, but I'm also making sure my fingers aren't sticking to it, since I'm gluing myself again to the bench. It's staying now. Alright, well I am going to pause. I'm going to go clean my fingers with some acetone, because I don't have any fingerprints left on most of my fingers. And then I'll get this thing finished up, this piece, and then we'll get to put back on the top, since we're really long into this. These characters, once we get around to gluing them, I do use super glue to reattach them to the discs, both top and bottom. I don't normally use hot glue for these because they're not covering anything important and they're not supposed to come off, so it doesn't matter. Also, the super glue being thinner means that they sit flush and don't have a lump, because hot glue is thicker, of course, even when you squish it. Yep. So I'm going to let that cure. I'm going to let this cure a little bit longer, and then I'm going to sand this tab down so I can get this to fit in, make sure it's not stuck to the bench. It's a good thing I moved it. It was gluing itself to my bench again. Don't ever put it on. Don't ever put paper towel down. Just put something plasticky that you can peel it back off of. Parchment paper works pretty good too. The slick side. That way, if you are doing huge amounts of glue, you don't glue your stuff down. So somebody put this back on with hot glue. I'm going to glue this back on with super glue. The hot glue. Stretchy. go clean my hands, and yet I'm just continuing. There we go. I'll glue this back on once it's assembled, because doing it now, I'm probably going to break it back off. I'm assuming, I don't know. This way. It makes the most sense. It's just a piece of the resin glue, this stuff here. Assuming it went like this. But I'm probably wrong. No, I bet you it went that way. Clock out. Oh yeah, the resin that's chipped off fits better that way. And the clock faces out. And the solid brick wall would be on the back. That makes better sense. And here's more of that fake snow. It's all over here. So the problem is now that I've glued this, the tolerance to slide this in is off. So it doesn't go in. It's off by just a little bit, not much. So I was hoping I could feed it in, but the way that it broke, it should have been glued on first. I didn't notice it. So just have to sand it down a hair to make it fit. It's still wet. Alright, I'm going to pause it now for real. Be back in a little bit. Alrighty, I got it pretty much back together. I don't think this goes to this. I think it goes to something else in the box, because one, it doesn't match anything. It's the wrong color palette, and it's a different type of plastic. So the box has like 5 pieces in it, so this probably broke off of one of the other pieces. I have a spare foot. I'm not quite sure where it goes, and I'm missing. I say I'm missing a character, but apparently the character went really far in. Character's over here. This is probably her foot. Yeah. So I'm still missing a foot because she's supposed to have 2. But anyway, so the top is pretty much back together, as you can see. Looks, that's the light. It's not broken. It's right there. So there is a hole in the roof, small one, right here. I don't know where any pieces are, unless there's some more hiding in the box, which I'm going to check. And then we have a slightly bigger one on that side. You can see at the top corner. Boop. So, other than that, put back together. I just got to glue these guys on, well, guy and girl. Yeah, look, the lights work. So, let's do a low light. When I empty the rest of the box, I'm going to see if I have more pieces in there to maybe fill in the hole, or if the flags are, there's a flag missing, it might be in the box. I went online, most people selling this are missing the flags anyway. They break off apparently really easy. But let's see what this looks like in low light. can see it's a relatively bright piece when it's pointing up at the camera. We'll tip it back. You can see that this is glowing like it's supposed to. We got the lights pointing up. We got the lights inside, the lights pointing down. There's your side. I can't tip it too far because it will put a strain on the mechanism. And then in the back, which still has the light from the clear plastic, the opaque plastic. So, and stop this in the front, and I'll glue the guy back in. While this was all curing, I went and soaked my fingers in acetone to get rid of the glue that was all over them, because that's always nice. But if you have this piece, I'm going to put the glue here, and you drop it, you're going to need an entire bottle of glue, because this thing's now pretty much empty. A little too much. But anyway, you probably need an entire bottle of super glue to do the repairs. I don't know if this person's even part of this. There's a lot of pictures online, but they're not the greatest pictures. Let me just check the other characters real quick. Oh, no, she's part of that same person because that guy just noticed missing an arm and it's attached to her. Oh, yes. So, if you have this piece and you lose the top motor, you're going to have to disassemble the top. This is just resin glued on the faux glass, the plastic, and the whole top. Don't hit it with a hammer. Don't drop it like UPS did, apparently. And the motor is an SRF 300CA or RF 300CA motor. The one I put in there is made by Sanko, which is completely different than most of the ones I get. I just had a couple left over from a long time ago that I found when I was organizing my motors. And that's what I used, which is fine. It's the same motor, it's just a different manufacturer. But anyway, the bottom you'll have to can't get the glue on this. I'm also just scraping the bottom there. The bottom, you'll have to separate the actual house from the porcelain. So the plastic from the porcelain all the way around and get to the bottom mechanism. Now, when you take it apart, don't forget there's a wire that runs all the way through to the top that does not disconnect. When you take this off, there is a plug. So when you take this off, make sure you don't let it fall violently. One, it might turn into pieces. And two, I glued my finger again. And two, you might rip the wiring out of the circuit board, which would be really bad. Next, you can change the belt as we did here. Like I said, I usually get my belts from Skull Crane. I'm going to have to order some more. The belt I used is totally fine. It's a belt. It's still a rubberized belt, so it's a little stretchy. I like those better because they have more friction for going. That's nasty. Apparently I got a snot log on there. This glue is going bad. Super glue has such a short shelf life. But the belts appear to be a 30mm belt. The belt kit that I used when I used the yellow belt versus a black belt. That belt did not have a measurement listed on the package like the skull crane ones do. Just need to get whatever this glob of snot is out of here. But your belts, skull crane, you can get generic ones on Amazon if you like. I just prefer the higher quality belts. They'll last longer. They're a little more expensive, of course, but it's a quality belt versus a cheap rubber belt. Then as far as motor, right now these motors for some reason are getting hard to find. I'm not sure what's going on. They've been easy to find forever until in the last like month. So it might be because at this time of the year everybody's pulling their stuff out, it's broken, and they're just buying up everything. But just look up SRF 300CA or RF 300CA. I normally link them below, but this one's going to be harder because even Amazon will get them to you, but it's going to take 30 to 45 days because they're coming from China where they're manufactured. So her leg doesn't want to stay. Keeps getting stuck to my needle nose here. Other than that, it's a pretty basic unit. It's not too terribly hard as far as disassembly goes. Granted, this one was a little easier with UPS being nice enough to break it apart for me. There we go. I got it to stay. When you do reassemble it, use hot glue for the parts that you have to pull apart. Now, the parts that aren't supposed to come apart, like the flags or the people, use super glue because you don't want that stuff to just randomly pop off. And then as far as the glue, I use Surebonder, which I prefer since I've tested multiple of them. If I find more pieces for this, I will fill in the little crevices and holes that are in the stuff. I'm sure I'll figure out what this goes to when I empty the rest of the box. The box is not a small box. It's a little over 3 foot long, maybe 2 foot wide, and a little over 1 foot tall. It's a big box and it has 4 pieces in it, or had. Right now there's 2 of them on the bench. The other one I've already repaired before, so it's not, I don't need to refilm it, but it's this one right here with the Santa. It's already on the thing. So I'm just having a problem with the drive shaft and the glue. Every time I put it back together, the drive shaft pops out. I have to take it back apart to put the drive shaft back in. That's the hardest thing on that piece is the drive shaft, and then I got it back in. I just haven't re-glued it yet. Other than that, so this one's done. So the Lemax Winter Wonderland toy store is now complete. As you saw it when I pulled it out, it was in pieces, and now it's relatively back together. Yeah, I do have this piece here, which I'll try and find. This, I think, goes to a different piece. And if I find the missing pieces of roof, especially that big one, I will go ahead and pop it in. Other than that, it's all back together. Everything's glued on. Nothing appears to be loose. Didn't glue the track, so they still spin. Because if you glue the track, they won't spin. Now it just has to make its journey back across the country. So, but there you go. So, thanks for watching this long, entailed process to repair this piece, showing that even if it breaks, you can, in most cases, put it back together, and also showing you one of the advantages of having a plastic house versus a porcelain house. Because, I'll turn it off so I don't bite in the mechanism. You know, when you saw that was cracked all the way through, you can see it's totally fine. Now the back, you can see there is a little bit of a chip where the red paint came off right in there. But I even got that panel back in. So that's the thing about plastic. Plastic allows you to fix it if it breaks. It also comes apart easier because it's usually held together with screws and glue. Whereas porcelain is just huge amounts of glue, and then you risk chipping the paint off the porcelain, Plastic is generally dyed all the way through. This plastic isn't because it's multicolors, but I'm sure on the bigger walls it may be. I know some of the pieces I have that I've had broken, one of the Lemax Christmas pieces, the red brick broke. The whole building is red brick, and it was red all the way through, so you didn't have any of that white showing like you do back here, where you have to touch it up. But that's also a newer piece than this, so it's possible they just changed their dyeing process, or this is one of the first times where they tried to do the plastic with the painting to give it the different layers of green and blue and gold and red and orange, and it was easier to use a white palette. Also makes the colors brighter. So anyway, so enough with this one. It's a really long video. Hopefully you watched it and enjoyed it, or at least learned something, and you can see the process. And then this is why sometimes it takes me days to fix a piece. I usually only can get 1 or 2 on my bench at a time, and this one it didn't take me days. This one 3 or 4 hours total. I know the video's not that long, but it was the gluing of this here and letting it sit, and then the gluing of this here and letting it sit. That's where the time-consuming part comes in. This is now glued on with the super glue. These are still original with hot glue, so I'm probably going to peel those off so they're not so wiggly and put dabs of hot glue on, or sorry, super glue. If you don't want to hold your items, I cheat when I do stuff like that. I use these. I set them next to the unit, whatever it may be, and clamp whatever I'm holding and then stick it in. That's what I did with that one. Then I go off and do something else. What I did while that was gluing is I went and soaked my fingers in acetone, so that way I didn't have sticky fingers. But other than that, should be good. Any comments, questions, put them below. And until the next one, thanks for watching.